Hi, and welcome to Spondycast, where we bring together the best medical minds, thought leaders, scientists, patients, and caregivers to inform and inspire the spondylitis community. I'm your host, Jill Miller, living my best spa life, knowing that how we meet today has the power to change everything going forward. Please note that the information provided in this podcast should not be considered medical advice. We do encourage all listeners to consult their healthcare professionals for medical concerns. Thank you for listening, and we hope you find our discussion today enlightening. Hi, and welcome to Spondycast. Today, we are going to talk about the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, evidence-based strategies to support spondyloarthritis patients. In this episode, Dr. Heidi Prather returns to Spondycast to explore the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine and how each can support people living with axial spondyloarthritis. From nutrition and movement to sleep, stress, substance abuse, and social connection, Dr. Prather unpacks the latest evidence behind these foundational lifestyle strategies. If you didn't listen to our first episode, let me introduce you to Dr. Heidi Prather. She's an attending physician and professor of physical medicine and rehabilitation at the Hospital for Special Surgery, Weill Cornell Medicine. She holds the title of Simonson Family Foundation Scholar, and she is the founder and medical director of the HSS Lifestyle Medicine Program, a standardized interprofessional program designed to help people with musculoskeletal pain improve whole person health, reduce pain, and enhance function through behavior change. While at HSS, she has served as the clinical director for value-based programming and medical director for the HSS Osteoarthritis Pilot Program. Nationally, she is a diplomat of the National Board of Medical Examiners and board certified in physical medicine and rehabilitation, sports medicine, and is a diplomat of the Board of Lifestyle Medicine. Notably, she was the first female president of both the Psychiatric Association of the Spine, Sports, and Occupational Rehab and the North American Spine Society. Her research focuses on pre-arthritic hip disorders, hip-spine connection, gender differences in musculoskeletal disorders, and athletic injuries, as well as the application of lifestyle medicine and musculoskeletal care. Her work has led to over 100 peer-reviewed publications, national and international presentations, and both intra and extramural funding. Welcome back, Dr. Heidi Prather. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I loved our last conversation, although as we mentioned, we got in a bit of trouble, because we didn't cover all the topic areas. So we're going to do that today for our listeners. But again, can you just briefly reintroduce the concept of lifestyle medicine for us and outline the 6 pillars, and then we'll dive into each?
Sure. So lifestyle medicine is actually a medical specialty, and there are different types of practitioners that can become diplomats of the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine. So it can be physicians, nursing, advanced practice providers, physical therapists, dietitians. So it's truly an interprofessional approach. It's a great format for how to help people engage in behavioral change. So, lifestyle medicine is a medical specialty that has evidence based in each individual pillar. And the pillars are nutrition, physical activity, sleep health, managing stress, positive social connections, and avoidance of risky substances. And collectively, they independently show evidence to reduce chronic systemic inflammation, but they also have bidirectional effects on each other. And using lifestyle medicine has been shown to prevent, treat, and even reverse chronic lifestyle related diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. It's been very impactful in autoimmune conditions. So it's kind of going back to let's treat the root cause of how this happened and how it started. And it just makes a lot of sense. The problem is in our traditional healthcare system, we are not incentivized to really help people enable themselves to get healthy, which sounds kind of not what healthcare should be. But conventional medicine is a passive thing where I give a patient something, whether it's advice or an intervention, a pill or a procedure, and the patient receives it. The difference in lifestyle medicine is a patient has to be ready for behavioral change and has to be an active participant in their own care. It doesn't work. I can't force you to sleep better. I can't force you to eat carrots. It's not how it works. So it has to really come from within the person. But once you start to understand that, and for me, it was a big change for me as a provider, uh, because I saw so many people with chronic conditions, and I would think, oh, if I could just get this person access to a dietitian, or if I could just get this person access to counseling or a health coach, I know they would be better. They've been with me 15 years in my practice. I know that's what's going to happen. It didn't always happen. And then some of the people that I thought, oh, there's no way they'll do well with lifestyle, they asked to be in it and they made big changes. So it's really more about where the person is and if they're ready for change. And if they are, man, this really works well.
I'm going to hold my question till the end, but because I have so many. Uh, but this is I appreciate the distinction between it's you are giving someone something versus I think it's almost like putting it on offer, right? Lifestyle medicine puts it
Correct.
on offer, and it's whether or not you want to accept that offer and or sometimes a challenge. Uh,
But
yeah,
then also enable the patient to participate.
right,
How does calling your doctor's offer enable you to be healthy about your healthcare? It's hard to call your doctor's office, right? You end up with a
right,
call center or someone who doesn't know you, and that you've got three things to schedule that day, and you've been on hold for 30 minutes, and like all those things disincentivize us the way
right.
our healthcare system is delivered. So not only do we help people with here's the facts about behavior change and things, here's the facts and the evidence that says if you do this, you're going to feel better and do better, but also enable you to be a participant in your care. And so that's a lot when we talk about programming. That's a big component of, okay, we need to do this, but how do we make it so the patient feels supported in doing it?
Yeah, and for anyone who's a not a believer yet, but will be by the end of the hour, you had said something in our last conversation that I think sets the stage before we head into the six pillars, which is you guys did I don't remember if it was a specific research study, but you started to see people getting in the boat and on the journey with you within your own ecosystem and some of the providers when you started to share broadly that people who adopt lifestyle medicine strategies are seeing was it like a 3-point reduction in pain very broadly, and I should have done my
No,
homework.
no, you're no, you're yeah, you're
Okay,
doing a great job. You're quoting the study. So we're the first to publish on using lifestyle medicine as a format or a mechanism to improve health risks prior to surgery. And in any surgery, I work in a large orthopedic center, largest one in the world, number one in the world, interested in staying number one, and that's why I'm grateful to them for recognizing that this is a path to that. Because if their patients are healthier around the time of surgery, they're going to have less complications and do better with their surgery. So that's why I am where I am, which has been a wonderful experience. And our study showed that when people completed the program, yes, they lost weight. Yes, their lab values got better. Like their inflammatory markers in general get better. Their hemoglobin A1Cs, which is a measure of how stable their glucose is, gets better. Lipids get better. Vitamin D gets better. All those things get better. Pain went down on average. So if you take a mean, everybody in, you do a mean value of that was 3 points. Percocet's
that's
4.
huge.
Yeah.
Percocet's 4. Okay, so nearing what
We're near a Percocet. We're near the value of a Percocet, except it lasts longer, right? And it's not unhealthy for you. So yeah, so it's
yeah,
yeah, so it's that some people like you just said believe. I'm like, I don't understand why people keep using the word believe. It's the data. And I
right,
recently,
right.
I recently had no, I recently had a leader that I report to often, and he said to me, "Gosh, the data is the data," and I went, "There we are, yes, this isn't a, you don't have to believe it. It's like it's kind of hard to believe,
It's evidence, right?
yeah,
Now,
but it's the evidence that it does work." And again, is it on everybody? No, of course not. Not everybody's ready to change. Not everybody's ready to make big changes in their life and be all in, but the ones that are, man, we could start to change the trajectory of our chronic disease in this country if we find a way to have more people be able to engage in this, find a mechanism for those of us doing it to actually get paid to do the
Yeah.
work. And there's all kinds of problems with that, but um, it's getting better. I don't think it's getting worse. I think those things are getting better. I recently heard that American College of Lifestyle Medicine has done a lot of work on Capitol Hill, and at the annual meeting that was a couple weeks ago, they were talking about um, the AMA has come out saying that group programming is really a great way to disperse this information, that we should be paid for it, and that there's favorable conversations with CMS, which is the people who govern Medicare. And when CMS does something, usually everyone else follows. So I'm very hopeful for that.
Yeah, and I would think, I mean, with all that's going on in healthcare, I have to think there is potential cost savings
Yeah.
across the board.
And you know
Uh,
how hard it is to show how hard it is to show what money you save people. I've been on this pursuit. I'm 11 years in. I just got off a call before we got in here with somebody who's interested in health policy. We have Medicare data. Spoiler alert, our Medicare patients do really, really well. And you would think maybe they wouldn't because older, more chronic disease. Oh, yeah, you're virtual. They're not going to be able to participate in something virtual. Oh, no.
right,
They engage, they go at it. They actually do better in some parts of it than younger folks or people without Medicare, insured by some other form of insurance. And so we've gone through this little circular dance on how do we show cost savings, and we haven't gotten to that answer yet. We got to find another expert, but we know they engaged. We're going to talk a lot about adherence and the value of telehealth, because right
yeah,
now our government is extending, that telehealth is reimbursed by Medicare still for another month or so, and we're going to go from one to the other, and it's hard on the Medicare patient because they're dependent on this program,
right.
and it could exclude them if it's not covered. So yeah, those are all the negative things I'm saying, but I do see hope that it's going to go in a better direction.
Yeah, just, I mean, from where I sit, I have the benefit, at least in the spondyloarthritis community, of having had probably, I mean, on Spondycast, we've had 125 conversations on how do we improve outcomes for people with these diseases, and way more like just in my day to day. But I can't see a world where we improve outcomes for people without addressing these pillars of lifestyle medicine. And funny enough, and then I promise we're going to go to nutrition. We're going to snap right to nutrition. Uh, but after I talked to you, shortly after I got back on a bandwagon at ACR, which is the American College of Rheumatology meeting, and I was saying to our wonderful SAA staffers who book our guests, and you were part of the impetus, but I was like, we really need to get the Blue Zones guy.
Yeah.
I was like, we really need him. And I've been saying this for 6 months. And they said, Jill, he's kind of a celeb and we can't get him. And I was like, no, we need to get him. Like, I think he would be great. And funny enough, I was in Miami and walking down the street and walked past him. And I was like,
Okay.
hey, stop for a sec. But you know what? I took a photo with him. And I mean, I probably on some level, like I was like, can I hug you? Like you're just my hero. And so fingers crossed he'll join us in the next few months. But after talking to you, and I was a big like sort of lifestyle person the last, 7, 8 years. And I feel like this last year has just droned off in my own personal life. After talking to you and seeing him, I was like, oh, he's glowing. And Dr. Prather is sharing all this great data, and I'm pretending like, and I was having a massive flare over a few
Yeah.
months. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, I just have to get back into these things, right?
Right.
I got to
Right.
put down my red wine. I got to like walk my 10,000 steps if I can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but you bring up a really important piece, and I put the charge on my group this last week. We had we have a group meeting where we have a creative process once a month. Where are we going with curriculum? And this is the whole interprofessional team, and including my administrators. And please pray for them because we're very demanding what we want to do. But um, pain is not necessarily a part of the how-to of lifestyle medicine. And I think our group, especially because we've got great data, can be help lead that charge. So, for example, I just reviewed a proposal from our exercise kinesiologist and our physical therapist. Is like, guys, you got to go. You got to go and present. You got to go and present. You got to show people how to adapt exercise for people who can't do 10,000 steps, for people who can't weight bear, for people who can't flex and bend and lift weights with a bad back,
Right.
right? But there is a way to move, right? But we've got it. You can't just say go do it and then leave them to their own resources to figure out how to do this. So they're actually submitting something. I hope will get accepted.
Yeah.
And then how pain derails you
Yeah, for sure. I
pretty
mean, that's what
easily.
I went through.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the trans theoretical model for change is how all of this is based on, which is where are you in the state of readiness? And there's pre-contemplation, which is I never knew that my type 2 diabetes and my knee OA and my painful swollen knee because I ate pizza last night are all interrelated. No one necessarily puts that together. So pre-contemplation, you start to marry those concepts together, and then they start asking more questions in the next stage, and then the next stage is preparation. It's like, oh, I'm going to go walk, but I haven't, and I bought the running shoes, but I haven't gotten out the door yet. They're at that stage, and when you hit over that cusp, that's when you're in active stage, and that's what I talk about in the patients that complete our intensive program, or somewhere close, if not in an active state of behavioral change. And then there's the next one is maintenance, which is how do you keep it going? And guess what the next one is? Expect, they call it relapse, but basically
Yeah.
expect to be human and this isn't perfect, right? And so you should expect that that should happen. I expect pain to be something that can put you in relapse more easily. When you don't feel good, you don't want to move. It's counterproductive. It's better if you move. You actually feel better when you move. But when you're in the moment, it doesn't feel that way, right?
Yeah, and this is if you don't know her, it may be a good resource for you. And anyone else listening who's she's my go-to pain person is Afton Hassett at Michigan. They've
Mm-hmm.
done a ton of work and they've done like a 30-day chronic pain reset, which pulls in a lot of this work. Um, but yeah, you're right. Similarly, there's like this framework I've been playing with in my like yoga world, which is all of those pre-contemplative things, and then you hit a point of discipline. And
Mm-hmm.
then what I would call the relapse mode is like self-examination and things go sideways and
Yeah, you get derailed because you're human. But
because you're
that's the
human,
thing.
right?
You gotta give people need to give themselves grace. We talk about you eat
Yeah,
a, oh, I didn't eat well on Thanksgiving. Well, it's one holiday. It's okay.
right.
You didn't keep the pie going for 10 days. You succeeded. Come on. Like
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's what it is. So yeah.
Okay. We officially, I'm going to get clobbered over the head if we don't move to pillar one, nutrition. What does the evidence show about dietary patterns in
That so the
nutrition?
more plants you eat, the better you are. Period. The end. And it's because plants have fiber, and fiber is the thing that goes from your mouth to your gut in one piece. And in your gut, you make these different types of short chain fatty acids. So the more different types of fiber you eat, the more variety of short chain fatty acids you got in your gut, and they are the key to health. Period. The end. It's really simple. The only thing that contains the only thing it contains fiber are plants. And so the more plants you eat, lots of great data that shows the longer you live and the less chronic disease you have. It's really simple. I
And it
think
doesn't
we make
color,
things so complicated. We need to uncomplicate it, right?
and it doesn't matter what color they are or where, as long
The
as they're,
more colors, the better.
the
So
more colors, the
color,
better.
yeah. So we talk about eating the rainbow because the more colors there are, there's the different types of phytonutrients that that plant contains. We have 30, I think 35 vegetable or 35 plant challenges. Like, can you eat 35 different plants in 1 week? Um, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm going to
So
try that.
yeah, people like it. That's a big challenge because then we get real crazy into, oh, I did this with the bok choy and that Swiss chart had a different color to its leaf, But we share that on group programming.
I
Um,
love that. I may have
yeah.
to put that might be one of my January things. Um, okay, so that takes care of nutrition. Pillar two, physical activity. How can movement and exercise be tailored for patients to manage pain, people with
Yeah.
stiffness?
The big message is everything counts. You do not have to be pumping iron at a gym. You don't need to be in this really cute outfit heading out you don't have to do any of that stuff. You can do that stuff if you like it, but like it's movement counts. Any kind of movement counts, and consistency in doing it counts. And you're looking for cumulative minutes over a week's time to add up to something. So if you're doing vigorous activity, so that's I'm walking, running hard enough that I can't sing or talk to my friend next to me. That's vigorous activity, right? You're huffing and puffing and you can't carry on a conversation. That's vigorous activity for you. You need 75 total minutes of that in a week. Or, here's the big things, or you can combine vigorous with moderate exercise. So moderate exercise is me and my neighbor, we go out for a walk, we're kind of walking fast, it's brisk, but I can still carry on a conversation with her to some degree. Um, that's considered moderate. So if you combine vigorous and moderate exercises, you're looking for 150. And if you're just, I can't even do moderate exercise because, I'm not able, I have an impairment physically that doesn't allow me to do that. Any movement, that means chair exercise. That means walking from the parking lot to the grocery store. If you add up those minutes, you're looking for 300. And those numbers are where the cutoffs kind of fall when you look at mitigation of chronic disease. Now, obviously, if you go up higher than 300 minutes, you get more benefit, but it kind of flattens out, right? So the curve
Right.
is the highest in those 75, 150, or 300 cutoffs. So we have patients obviously in our program, that have a body part that's not working right. That's why they're with us, and they're trying to have surgery at hospital for special surgery. We see a lot of hip and knee replacement folks, and they literally can't stand. And so we have an exercise kinesiologist they get to work with for free on Tuesday nights at 6. And you can join Calissa, and she's got people on couches moving. We're getting people from zero physical activity minutes as high as 100, 150 before their joint replacement.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, in the world of spondylitis, you got one day you're great, go for it. The next day, like, the weather changed or something's really
You
kicked,
sound like
right?
me.
Right. Something's kicked in and I don't feel as good, or I've been up too much this week and I can feel it physically. Respond to what your body's telling you and do something different that day. Variety really helps, especially as we're aging, because we're less likely to get stuck in certain movement problems that then they themselves can become a problem. That's my physiatry hat on saying telling you that, but mixing it up is really important. But again, keeping it simple. And the other thing, you got to find what you like. If you don't find what you like, it becomes a chore. If the weather, like my favorite thing is being outside and walking or hiking or running or blah blah blah, right? Okay, it was 21 degrees this morning. That's not happening, and it's pitch black, so I can't go outside to
Right.
exercise. So what do I do instead? I have to go into the dusty gym in the basement of my apartment building in New York. I'm grateful I have one, so no disregard, but it is very dusty and it's old and it's 5 in the morning and someone in there's got the window open and it's 21 degrees. It's not a pleasant place, right? But I've got either music blaring in my ears, I've got really bad TV going on my phone, or I'm listening to a book. I find something that I can look forward to while I'm exercising if I've got to do it on a machine because the weather and everything isn't conducive for me to be outside that day. So find those things and, again, mix it up.
Yeah, and
Just happen.
and I noticed in the last couple years, I don't want to say that I scoffed at my mother for always like popping on the YouTube videos at like 4 in the afternoon to move. And just these like small 8 minute, 10 minute, like, and even, just a little dancing, a little this. And I think it is about finding what you love too.
Yeah,
Uh,
you have to, or it doesn't stick, right? So if you have to substitute for something it's not conducive, or your traveling can be really hard
uh,
too. Just figure out, oh yeah, oh, I got that book I want to listen to. I'm going to do that while I, dredge my way on the treadmill in the hotel, in the hotel gym, or, whatever, fill in the
yeah,
blank. It's very, one thing to know too, inactivity is really the thing that produces inflammation. We always talk about the pillars and how they relate to chronic systemic inflammation. And so there's these little markers in our bloodstream that we can measure when somebody's inflammation's up or down. And there's one really unique thing about muscle is that it makes interleukin 6 that's very special. Normally, that's out in your bloodstream causing inflammation, but in your muscle, it actually protects the inflammatory cascade from happening. So you make it, this thing called interleukin 6, by being active. So when you're inactive, it's not being made, and the inflammatory cascade just takes off.
I'm if you can't see me, my jaw dropped.
Yeah. So that's why it's okay if I don't feel good today and I can't go do that big aerobic thing that I know is really good for me, but I still moved. I still got up and did either 8-minute video, or I took a walk around the block, or I sat on my stationary bike. I have a gentleman in our program now that's just the only thing he can really do is a stationary bike because his knee is not working well, and he's doing it every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you have to find that thing.
Okay. Uh, stress management.
Well, I'm guessing your crowd knows all about this. The interplay between mental stress and your pain being higher. Period. The end. That's just what happens. That's how our body handles things. So, um, stress whether it's high stress or low stress doesn't matter. Creates inflammation in your body. Period. And so mitigating stress, which would be either getting away from the thing that's stressful, if you can eliminate from that in your life, or figuring out how to deal with it. And a lot of times it's low grade everyday things that accumulate for us, and figuring out methods that help you with managing that in the moment, being aware of it. How do I manage it? What are things that help me with stress reduction? And that's so unique to every individual person. But there's lots and lots of data that increased stress is linked to increased pain, period.
Is it, I'm curious, is the increased stress, so again, since we last spoke, one of the things I went back to was like an a practice that I had gotten away from, where I found myself by like noon every day, my heart was thumping and I was irritated,
Yeah.
and I get on calls
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I felt like garbage, right? And I every
Yeah.
day, and I think I'm probably speaking in tongues for everyone who has this disease, and a
Yeah.
lot of just general people. Uh, and I went back to a practice that works for me, but I find myself like almost being like just docile throughout when there's chaos and somebody's like throwing a temper tantrum in a meeting, and I'm just like, well, we're just not.
Yeah.
And it is just keeping our nervous system calm. Is that what reduces?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So like sometimes people say, "Oh, you think my pain is in my head?" I'm like, well, it bypasses through there. The brain is a part of it, but it's not that you created it in your brain.
Right.
So So when we're stressed, that creates that inflammatory component, which ignites our nervous system, and particularly our autonomic nervous system, which is a side of our nervous system that makes our heart pump and our lungs go up and down without us telling it to do so. The peripheral side of our nervous system is where I think I'm going to make my bicep contract. So I tell the nerve, I tell my brain tells the muscle, and the nerve activates, and my bicep contracts. That I have control over, but this other one I don't, right? And that is linked to your glands, so your endocrine system, your heart, your pulmonary, makes you breathe faster, makes your heart race, makes sure, then your glucose goes out of control. I mean, it's all interrelated. One thing I always like to point out from a pain perspective and tissues, right? Obviously, spondylitis is a huge impact of inflammation in the spine itself. But the wrapping around our muscles is called fascia. It's like cellophane. If you want to think of like cellophane wrap, it wraps around our muscles and it really does connect us from like our top of our body to our bottom of our body. It's the only thing that's contiguous across our body. And if you take a sample of that in an animal, not a human, and you put it under a microscope and you dye it so that the little nerve endings will show up, it becomes almost completely purple with the dye. It is densely innervated by our nervous system, and it's the autonomic nervous system. So I leave you with that. So when you're like, oh gosh, I've got this thing in my neck and I'm stressed, and these people over here are like having an argument in a meeting, and my neck is hurting, and now it's going down to a weird place in my shoulder and around my belly. It's okay. You're not, that's really is related, the nervous system related to a structural property that can get tense and be painful. And it's not measurable like on a, you can't see it on an MRI, you know.
Right.
And that's a hard part of medicine, and that's a hard part of pain, is that we don't have painometers, right? My one of my first partners, he's like, yeah, if we could just invent that painometer, we shove you in there and you come out and has a big P on it, says pain is from here, treat me now, right? Wouldn't that be
I
a
would love
better
a
way to
meter.
practice? Yes. And
It
he's
would make
very
the journey
interested.
a lot
Yeah.
shorter for many of us in terms of
Yeah,
like getting
yes, like the
answers.
diagnostic part of it. Yeah,
Oh
let's
yeah.
do the painometer. Let's go. That would work, but it doesn't, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of times, some people see, oh, I've had all these MRIs. I'm like, well, the answer's not on the MRI. It's a physiological movement problem, right? It's
Right.
not. We can't measure everything by a structure.
Yeah, for sure. It's
How'd we get off? I'm getting off the pillar. Let's
okay, we're on
start
stress
dragging away.
management. We don't want to get in trouble. Um, uh,
But I think it's important to talk about that with this population because they
yeah,
live this every day.
yeah. And like what kind of programs do you guys run? Is it, I mean, we've had a lot of guests talk about mindfulness and therapy and breath practice and
All of it. Yeah.
all
And
of it.
recognizing that all of that helps not just help your pain, but it helps regulate your autonomic nervous system. So mindfulness is typically where we start because it's the easiest. You can do it anywhere. And some people that works well for them and that's all they need. One of our favorite or most attended things is we have breathing classes, and those are great. And then you can get into meditation, and there's CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, and the techniques for that. There's different, and even just the education on. The first time I gave the little talk to our group program about what fascia is and how it relates to your pain, I said this. I started it off with, "This is about me because I never get enough time to explain this to you when it's one on one in a room, and it takes me about 15 minutes to go through it and explain it." And when I got done, they were like, oh my gosh, right? I'm like, okay, I feel better now because I got to explain it to you. But those types of things are super important to understand. And that again, if I do box breathing or if I do whatever breathing technique I'm using, that's stabilizing that autonomic nervous system that's related to your gut, your thyroid, your diabetes, your pain, your heart rate, your lung. It's all interrelated. So it's a great thing to be able to practice. And again, finding the thing that really works for you and how you do it is very individual.
Yeah, and I for many years I had a teacher who always said, "We call it a practice, not a perfect."
Exactly.
So you have to try something, and none of we'll never be perfect with any of it, but at least
Right.
we try it, and because I think we often forget to breathe.
Oh, and when you have pain, the first thing you do is clench. And what stops moving? Your
Yeah,
your diaphragm.
yeah,
So a lot of times, some of the first things I do with people is, can we remember where the diaphragm goes all the way up and then all the way down? And if you have a pain problem, that may be the first place to start. Is if you have short breath, you're increasing your intraspinal pressure. That
right.
can increase your back pain. It also increases your pelvic floor tension, which increases your intraspinal pressure, which increases your back pain. So again, all very interrelated.
And we won't even go, maybe we'll do a whole separate topic on on the vagus nerve,
Yes,
and breathing
exactly.
and breathing and how your diaphragm
Yeah, reacts to
freezes
that.
against it.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
fascinating to me. Okay, pillar number 4, avoidance of risky substances. How does tobacco, excessive alcohol, other risky substances impact disease activity or comorbidities?
Right. So, tobacco is an easy one. So, the reason it's a carcinogen or the reason it causes cancer is because the amount of inflammation it creates in your body. Period. So, that one's somewhat easy. Um, and I think people are well schooled in that now. It is addictive. So, people who are using tobacco, they typically will need help getting off because it's not just a habit, it's a true addiction. And then for alcohol use, a big thing is talking about being aware of how much is a serving, right? And what kind of give you a guideline of what to stay within. So for men, it's not to exceed 14 drinks in a week, or not more than two in a day. And then for women, it's 1 to 2 in a day, not more than 7 in a week. And then knowing that a glass of wine is really 5 ounces, a beer is, that type of thing. So those are the biggest things. We know alcohol can inhibit our immune system. It also is related to inflammation. It's related to some, chronic diseases as well. In the musculoskeletal realm, it's there's kind of this up and down about is it protective or not protective for some joint problems, but definitely chronic persistent use of alcohol is linked to progression of osteoarthritis.
Oh, okay. And is that why women get less? We get less.
Oh, we don't get to drink as much.
Is
I,
that
don't, I think
what
that's our metabolism and how we're
Oh,
made.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah,
that's unfortunate. And yeah, in general, although I hear tobacco is on the rise,
yeah. I think it's in the younger
sadly.
population. Yeah.
Yeah, my kids keep telling me this. Okay, pillar number 5, restorative sleep. What does current research suggest about sleep quality versus quantity? And how does poor sleep affect inflammation?
Right. So we think this is one of the determinants of health that gets the least amount of attention. And when I first, when I'm talking maybe to a new group of providers that are thinking about lifestyle medicine or maybe not heard about it, or Heidi, whatever, maybe not interested, I'm like, well, this is the one thing you can talk about and no one's going to get upset with you. Who does not want to sleep better? So you don't. Yeah, I had somebody say, "Don't you be touching my Jamaican culture and food." Okay, the Jamaican food's off, but how about sleep? Can we talk about that? Oh yeah, we can talk about that, right? And so it's a real easy way to ease into thinking about lifestyle change. So there's two major components of sleep. There's quantity, so how many hours are you doing it, and quality. And the quality is the thing that's harder to measure. Wearable devices are out there trying to help us with that. So Aura Rings, Fitbit, they tend to have pretty good sleep data. Is it perfect? No, but it can at least get you in the ballpark. And the reason why if we talk about quality first is so important is a couple things. So in the first or the second stage, there's 4 stages of sleep. One is falling asleep. Two is the second stage of sleep, and the second stage of sleep is where all the physical repair happens for our bodies. So our DNA gets repaired, our cells get repaired. So if you're healing from something, if you're ill, if you're coming back from a surgery or an illness, that's when your physical body gets repaired, is in that second stage of sleep. So if you're missing that or not getting enough of it, you're missing out on that. The third stage of sleep is where we have like rapid eye movement. You've heard of REM, and that's where the mental or behavioral components of restoration happen. So there's certain hormones and neurotransmitters that are released and reabsorbed during that time of sleep that help us with fear the next day. If you had a
Oh,
bad night of sleep and you feel edgy and everything bothers me today, it probably stage 3 you missed out on a little bit that night. It also is the part where there's this thing called leptin that when you have uptake of that, it makes us not so hungry the next day. right? I can attest to that. And if you don't get to that resorption of leptin during that stage of sleep, you tend to eat 330 calories more the next day, and it happens to be carbs. I was on call. I'm an old doctor, so there was no 80-hour work week. I was on call every third night for 2 years. No, 1 year. And then it went to once a month. I guarantee you, when I was up all night, the thing I ate was like toast and popcorn and, things that were really like carb heavy processed food. You kind of
Right.
crave it because I didn't get that uptake into my brain the night before. So those things are key, right? And so the quantity of sleep, we don't, there's not really, obviously there's not one size fits all, but you're trying to go towards 8 hours. So 7 to 8 is considered you're doing a great job. Anything under 6 is considered too little. So you're trying to get to 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then how I ask people, and this is how you can monitor yourself if you don't have a wearable, is when you wake up in the morning, in general, do you feel rested? Or do you feel like, gosh, I just wish I could go back to sleep? If you feel rested, it means you probably had good quality sleep the night before. And then you can do the math on actually how many hours you were asleep.
Interesting. So, when someone isn't sleeping well, I know we've talked a little bit with a couple folks on uh, sleep hygiene, uh, which is right, like settling down, sleeping in a dark room. I
Right
wear my little,
temperature. Yeah.
I wear my little thing,
Mm-hmm.
eye
Yep.
mask to keep the
Mm-hmm.
neighbors' lights out. Um, what happens when none of that works and you're
Yeah.
moving around and like,
You're uncomfortable. Yeah. So we always ask people, how well did you sleep? How many hours did you sleep? And do you awaken with pain or does pain awaken you? Which again is not a typical part of a sleep investigation, but we investigate it. And if we go on the parameters of less than 6 hours of sleep, doesn't feel rested, and plus minus pain bothers them, 76% of our population in our program have a sleep problem. I mean, it's a lot of people. So if you're trying all the good sleep habits and you are still stuck, that's when you ask for some help. And there's you even have in-home sleep studies now. Your primary care or your provider may say, "Oh, that sounds like the habit's all right, but you're having problems with initiating sleep, so you may try supplements that are safe, like melatonin or um, magnesium are good ones that people start. If you're having trouble staying asleep, well, that may be something else. Another types of medicines that help actually regulate the sleep cycle, and you might use those for a little bit and then get rid of them because you've reset. What's interesting is that most of the medicines that are in the sleep aid group of drugs actually screw up the sleep cycle. They mess it up. So you don't
oh, interesting.
Ambien is not, it was meant for you to take for 5 days
Right.
because you got an airplane trip that's too long, or you're in the hospital for 2 nights and your neighbor snores. That's what they're for. But they actually dysregulate the sleep cycle. I'll see people take narcotics for pain, but they're really taking it so they go to sleep, but it disrupts the sleep cycle, which is
Or
contributing
wine.
to their pain the next day. So it becomes this rapid ring of
Right.
mess. Yeah. So some of the meds that actually help regulate the sleep cycle are ones that have impact on our serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that we need to have reabsorbed in our brain at night so that we feel better the next day. We feel rested, our muscles feel good, our pain is less. Guess where that's made? 91% of it is naturally made in our gut. So when our gut health is off, our serotonin may be off. And then epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are neurotransmitters that are help auto-regulate our nervous system. So it's not a big surprise that the combination of those three may be the things that help you kind of reset your sleep cycle. Um, and anything other, beyond that, you may have a real sleep disorder, and there's like 8 to 10 different, very specific ones, and that you'd probably going to need help from a sleep specialist to figure out what's the right medication to get on board. And obviously the habits really help, and the
Yeah.
hygiene really helps. But if you're really failing at that, then ask for help because it really is important for your health.
Awesome. Okay. Uh, I'm sitting here ordering my magnesium. Okay, last and final pillar. We've made it almost across the finish line. Social connectedness. How might social support, community engagement benefit people with chronic inflammatory conditions?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think most people are on board with this after experience in the pandemic, and maybe we weren't quite so, as a community, aware of how important having connections is. Unfortunately, we've stayed a little disconnected since the pandemic, right? We're not, you walk down the street, everybody's got earbuds in, they're talking to their friend on maybe on FaceTime, but they're not noticing that they just, wiped you out on the sidewalk. It's an interesting how our culture has changed since the pandemic, but there's lots of great parts of it, like us, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Um, but social connections are key to reducing inflammation in your body. Loneliness and isolation, those which are kind of two different things, are directly connected to chronic systemic inflammation.
Let's repeat
So, so loneliness and
them.
isolation are directly linked to chronic systemic inflammation. They create it. Here's how I give you the proof. I always like giving you the mice stories because
Yeah.
then you go, oh well, it's even happening in the mice, and think, oh, this must be real. So you put a group of mice in a box living area together, and they're running around doing their thing, and you put another mouse by itself in another box, feed them the same thing, same daylight, same everything, same temperature, whatever. If within a few weeks the mouse that's in the box by himself starts gaining weight in his abdomen, I think it was a him. Don't not sure. I have to quote. You have to quote me on. He, she, they mouse will gain weight across their abdominal wall. Well, that's the beginning of metabolic disease, right? Metabolic obesity is when we have more, when we carry more of our weight in our middle. So
Yeah.
even the mouse does not like to be isolated, right? And experiences loneliness at a cellular level, that it creates inflammation in our body. And so people that are at greater risk for that are patients with impairment disability, elderly folks, people that live on their own and may not have good social connections. So when I get on and ask people about this pillar, when they're potentially entering our program, I'll try to make light of it, like, hey, you got family, you're married, you got a spouse, a partner, a gerbil, a hamster, a dog, what you got? What do you identify as your big support system? And it becomes a different conversation. And some people just immediately effuse, and other people will tell you, yeah, I don't have a lot of support. And so we know in those folks, we're going to like try to drive them towards our programming that is in groups, because
Right.
the group programming really creates its own community. And that's even happening online, like even better than I ever hoped it would, honestly. The first program I founded was all in person, or at least the pilot was in person. And then the pandemic happened. The day our doors opened, the pandemic happened. And so they pivoted right away to virtual. And now it's kind of a combination of both. My program at HSS, our program is primarily virtual. It is Manhattan. Space is a premium. We're virtual. But honestly, I think people prefer it because adherence is so high. And,
Yeah.
we reach a 3-state area, and, everybody can join. So, but our people that are enrolled in our program often tell me, gosh, I'm there every Monday night. I'm like, you've heard this talk like 100 times, because I'm the Monday night person doing group programming. Many of them could give some of these talks by now, but no, they show up for the community and the conversation. It keeps them on track. And they've put it as part of their lifestyle while they're making change. And they express community with each other. So we had a gentleman a couple weeks ago that was hitting his goals, and he kind of told the group that. And we was a hybrid program, so I had like 5 or 6 people in person with me, and we're all looking at a screen, so we're kind of looking back and forth at each other. And a patient in person nudges me and says, can I tell him, is it appropriate that I tell him I can tell he's really worked at it? Because, we don't know each other, but we're on this thing out together all the time. I'm like, oh, please do. It's going to come better from you than from me. And it's exactly what she did. And it was just yeah, that's what we all need, right? Is to support each other. And when you're working this hard to make big changes, getting that umph from somebody else really helps not just keep changing, but actually physically helps your health. We
Yeah.
also talk a lot about like the bounce back, like the value in community of giving a good review. I love giving a good review. When someone's done something really well, I just love doing that, right? But the idea is that you get this bounce back. Another thing I always give an example of, I'm from Missouri. I now have an apartment. When I'm at work in New York, I stay in the apartment. And moving there, I thought I'm probably just going to get eaten alive. I'm a little Midwestern girl. I don't know what I'm doing here in New York. This is going to be crazy. And I get on my elevator, and most nights I have no idea who these people are around me. The building's huge. I've never seen it before. But as I leave the elevator to get off on my floor, inevitably somebody says, "Have a good night." And how nice that is. And I have never experienced that before.
Oh,
It,
interesting.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a funny, you're right. That is the good review. It's how do you share just a bit? I have this weird habit where I often go out of my way to tell people I appreciate whatever they're like what they're wearing if I like it. And I've had crazy reactions all over the world. Some people like just scoff at you, and some people are like, he was just telling me this outfit is awful, so I super appreciate you. And like, can I hug you? Um, but we are in this, I think we are, and we will continue to be. Social connectedness is going to continue to be even more of, right? Was it the Surgeon General just went out in his exit letter last year with about this time of loneliness and disconnectedness is an epidemic.
Right. It's
And
getting higher. Yeah, that Surgeon General actually had initiatives on loneliness and isolation, and how do we build more third spaces where you can have community. I
right.
just learned from somebody in health policy that's what that's called. The coffee shop is the third space, right? Where
That's
it's
what
there for
Starbucks
you.
was. That was their original branding. They came up
Yeah.
with the third place, right? Not home, not the
Yeah. Oh, I
office.
didn't know that was from Star. Thank you for
Yeah, it
telling
was
me. But
Starbucks. Yeah,
yeah,
it was,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Stanley
But
Haynesworth was the, guy.
it is important, right? Because gyms, sometimes there's community there, sometimes there's not. Community centers, we don't have it. We don't seem to have as
Right.
many. It's yeah,
We don't have
and
churches as much. I mean,
oh, people aren't
we
attending as much, and yeah,
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 I mean, I'm in, like, the workforce space on my day job, and we talk a lot about work needs to become the new church because we have to have people feeling connected into values and whether or not they're, like, loving their job, but do they feel connected in because we've lost this massive, I mean, over just
yeah,
generationally, we've lost this connectedness and that third place, which used to be whether it was church or the town
right,
square, and
yeah,
now we're just gonna replace it with agentic AI.
yeah, and be more and more isolated from each other. Our interprofessional team. I live in Philadelphia, and the practice, obviously the program is in New York, and my team members are from a three-state area. But when I'm in New York, we have an interprofessional meeting that's all just about curriculum creation and creativity, and we don't do any of that until we're in person with each other, and it makes it just a little it's such a work. I really believe in that model because I think
Yeah,
it's such a we know each other, so that when I'm voice texting and you're looking at me, I text for me and I'm trying to give you an instruction, you're like, oh, she must be walking around. I know what she's doing because I know her,
yeah,
right? And this is gobbledygook and this isn't making sense. Like, what's she doing? Oh, she's probably voice texting. She does that all the time. Little things like that are the connections that we have, and
right.
that gives us meaning and purpose, and meaning and purpose are directly related to happiness. And all of that is directly related to chronic systemic inflammation loads that are in your body. So other things I always on the social connection side, the other things we tap into is I've got a program on the study of happiness, the science of happiness. I really enjoy listening to that stuff. We've done some goal setting around core values,
Yeah,
and if you can tie any of your I say little, we always say make the goals small. That way you get the blue ribbon at the end of the week when you've achieved it. Make it easy. And so when you're making that quote easier goal, the small goal for the week, if you can tie it to one of your core value goals, you're going to do it. It's not even going to be that hard for you because it's part of your core value.
Yeah, it is.
So that's been really that was changing for me as a practitioner trying to like how do I get this message across? How do I make this more like there's a format for it and there's a reason for it and it's connected to something? And that for me has been a change. And so we're going to probably implement that programming a little more often than what I've been
Yeah,
doing.
I mean, I think that's really, I'll share a small vignette and then we're gonna land the plane in a minute here. Uh, but that core values piece is, I went through a period where I remember saying to someone like, I don't even know what my values are anymore.
Mm.
And how do you make decisions? And then I built this like little tool, and I've used it with people over the years of helping them work down what those are. And
Hmm.
then a little bit of like a go, no go matrix. I'm going to
Hmm.
make a decision. Does it actually support the core values?
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly. And
it's
same
life
thing with
changing,
this.
right?
I'm going to make a goal. Yeah, exactly.
This is okay. So
It
did we?
really ties it. Like we had a gentleman that got and then you can identify with your own core. You know, it's real easy. You identify with your own, but like we had one patient and he got on and he says loyalty is one of my core values. And I'm like, okay, how does that link? And he shows you how he links it to, he could express how he linked it to
Right.
things so that anytime he says, oh, I really like to do this, I said, oh, I think you're going to feel more loyal about you use his words. And
Hmm.
it just now you're connecting at a different level. And
Yeah.
boy, that I just made it was one of those light bulbs goes on for me moment of how am I going to do this better? And the patients have really told me that, oh, we need to do that one again. So
That's awesome. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna, what did we miss that we need to think about?
That, change is hard, but it's not impossible. Um, if you get off course, that's okay. You're human. That was supposed to happen. Just have a plan for how you're going to get back on course. Where are you going to go to? You're going to listen to a podcast. You're going to listen to Jill Miller. You're going to you're going to go call your friend that's fits this part of your life. You're going to go listen to music. What is it you're going to do when you know you're off course? Because it's going to happen.
What's
We're all off. Yeah.
your flip of the switch
Yeah.
to turn
Yeah.
the light back on? Yeah.
Right. And then make sure you have people around you that are supporting you in this change.
Yeah.
Really key.
I love it. Okay, so on this note, first, thank you for joining us again. I really appreciate you. And I just want to say, like, you've had a profound change on me just in our first conversation. Uh, and I remember you also telling the story of having to fight for the programming that you're doing in the beginning and people not seeing your vision. And as an entrepreneur, I get that a lot. I understand that, and I want to thank you for pushing that. And I
Mhm.
will, I guess I'll land it on, I'm hoping that 2026 greets you and everyone else with courage and clarity for our people and our patients, and
Mhm.
uh, just a really lots of heartfelt connection with other people. So
Yeah. Well, this work you're doing is helping a lot of people. There's somebody out there that listens to this to get reconnected with themselves. And unfortunately, you may not know the repercussions of that in that moment, but it is happening.
we hear it sometimes, and it's why I book several hours a week in my calendar despite a schedule to make sure that we do it. And
Yeah.
I frankly, I take credit, but there's people like Jason and like 4 other staffers at SAA who without them this would not happen.
Well,
Uh, so
it's important work. Important work.
it is. I just show up and get to gab. So thank you so much, and I hope
Well,
we cross paths again soon. And yeah, all the best, and
all
thank
right.
you for the work you do.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Spondycast was made possible by donations from the Spondylitis Association of America's individual members and our show's corporate sponsor, AbbVie. Since our founding in 1983, the Spondylitis Association of America has been the face, voice, and leading nationwide nonprofit educating, empowering, and advocating for people living with spondyloarthritis. Through our extensive work with patients, the medical community, and partners, we provide information and resources to help people impacted by the disease live better lives and champion research to find a cure.